right now, the sentencing hearing is going on for former officer Aaron Dean, who yesterday came back that he has been convicted of manslaughter in the murder of Atatiana Jefferson. Here's a clip. We're going to break it down. This screams once a cop, always a cop, and yes, all men, all together. Just bear with me. We're going to go through it.
Let's get you back to Texas now for more on the sentencing hearing for former officer Aaron Dean. On the stand right now, Elizabeth Turner, accusing Dean of sexual assault in college. Let's get you back to court for cross-examination.
You say that this event occurred in November of 2004?
Yes.
Is that right? So approximately 18 years ago?
Yes.
That's right?
That's correct.
You were 18 years of age at the time?
That is correct.
And Aaron was around the same age you were, isn't that right?
I believe he was a 19-year-old sophomore at the time.
Okay, so is that an age that's somewhere around the age of 18?
It was over 18.
It's around the age of 18?
It's a year older than 18.
And you were in an honors library at the time?
Yes, the Honors College Library.
And is there a certain group, a select group of students that are allowed to get into that honors library?
Honors College students typically use the library.
The group, the homeschool graduates group that you were involved in?
Yes, I founded the group.
You founded the group? Aaron was a member of the group?
That is correct.
And isn't it true that one of the reasons that group was founded is because kids that are homeschooled have some adjustment issues that kids that go to public schools or private, more formal schools don't have, isn't that right?
I would, yes.
Okay, there's some adjustment issues that have to do with the way you structure your day.
Perhaps.
There are also some issues that have to do with social adjustment, is that right?
I think there are a variety of challenges that are unique to homeschool graduates attending a formal university for the first time.
And it's one of those issues of social adjustment.
Campus life and experience would be one of those aspects.
Okay, so my question was socially, do kids that are homeschooled have social adjustment issues? What's your answer to that question?
As a former homeschooler myself, I would be a bit reluctant to claim that homeschoolers are socially maladjusted.
I didn't say socially maladjustment, I said that they have adjustment issues.
Homeschoolers would have social adjustment issues.
Okay. So when you were homeschooled, how many kids were in your class?
Typically a class of one.
When you got to UTA, how many kids were in the class? Typical class.
In my first college class, computer science ethics, there were over 100 students in the class.
Okay. Pretty big difference, right?
Yes.
Right. Now, you wrote out a 5-page statement for the UTA police, is that right?
That is correct.
And isn't it true that in that statement that you told them that Aaron had traced over your breast, is that right?
That's correct.
And that you told them that what you told him at that time was that was very flattering, but that he was making you uncomfortable.
That's correct.
And something else that you kind of left out earlier was that he apologized to you, didn't he?
He did.
Pretty brilliant.
No further questions, Your Honor. Ms. Turner be excused subject to any potential recall. No objection to this date.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is the end of the cross there for this witness as we're in this penalty phase against this former officer convicted of manslaughter.
Being homeschooled is not an excuse and not an overwhelming pathway to sexual harassment or sexual assault. And one thing that I don't think specifically cisgendered straight men don't understand is that uncomfortable moment. So you have that uncomfortable, that smile, that thank you, but no thank you. Oh, that was so flattering, but that's uncomfortable. That we have to do in order to make it out of a situation unraped and alive. See, they're trying to use you were homeschooled too, so, first of all, whether you were homeschooled or went to a traditional brick and mortar high school, going to college, your classes are going to be different. There's going to be a learning curve. That doesn't mean you assault people. And in that uncomfortable situation, what was she supposed to say? They were in a library. If you've ever been to a collegiate level library, it's not as if the librarian is coming around with a ruler. What are you doing? But it gets worse, and not during the testimony. When a former cop turned trial lawyer comes in to give his commentary on the matter. Buckle up.
Here with me to discuss in West Palm Beach, Florida, former police lieutenant and trial attorney Rick King. Rick, nice to see you again. What's the effectiveness of this cross? I mean, 18 years ago, he was 19 at the time, has nothing to do with this particular crime that he's been convicted of. What's your takeaways?
I actually thought the cross was perfect. What you established was he was 18. They were both homeschooled. Whether she wanted to give it to him or not, the jury understands that there were social adjustments. And at the very end of it, she said she was flattered with what he had done and that he apologized.
Now, I don't know about you, but a police officer should not have committed crimes previously and then been allowed to become a police officer. Additionally, he was 19, old enough to vote, old enough to go off to war. Old enough that if he would have been black or brown or indigenous, he would have been touted all over the media and even in this commentary as a grown man who should have known better. Being homeschooled, once again, does not mean that your social adjustments are so grave as if you've been not around any other person ever in your life that you physically harm someone. And you see how he's sitting there smiling, even if she didn't want to give it up. Because it's so easy to get out of those situations, right? And we know what happens when you're forgiven of a crime and you're continuing to go on.
And I think that's what the jury takes away. And I think that really it's a nothing right now. I think we move on.
So this isn't testimony that was allowed during the trial.
Right.
And this is testimony that was, kind of listened to outside of the presence of the jury. And then she got on the stand. How does prosecutors decide to bring someone like that in the courtroom, and how is she found? Typically, how does this all work?
That's actually a great question, because why they decided to bring her in, I really have no idea. How they found her, she had to come forward, or someone had to come forward and tell them about this. For me, again, I think this is a reach. I think what's pertinent and what should be relevant in this trial, especially in this sense.
See, what happens is someone that had a crime committed against them regarding someone who is now involved in a high-profile case will pick up the phone and contact the prosecution. And the prosecution was absolutely right in bringing this woman in to establish the mindset of this man. They already had an expert come in and say that he's a narcissist. Admit during cross, the video was posted, that he was that gung-ho police officer that finally wanted some action. It establishes the character of the person. Just like currently, they have one of his friends, who happens to be a man of color, saying that, he took me to see these more accomplished musicians. He's a great guy. He's such a humanitarian. It establishes the character of the person. But once a cop, always a cop, it seems. That thin blue line is unbreakable.
Proceeding is, how was this officer, how was he as a police officer? Was he prone to violence? Was he prone to breaking the rules? Are there things that you can show that this should have been known to the agency, or known that he acted in these types of ways? That's what we're looking for. I don't think that bringing in someone when he was 19 years old in college, when he makes a social mistake, even according to the witness, I don't know that this is relevant. And I don't.
Somebody, anybody, tell me how sexual assault is just a mistake, a little faux pas, a social misstep. I would love to know. And this should be extremely relevant with the percentages of police officers currently being let go, put on administrative leave, and or prosecuted for sexually assaulting people in their custody. And we know the long history of police officers trading sexual favors to get out of tickets and or arrest. Once again, that thin blue line.
I don't know why they would bring this person in. To me, it's a reach.
Well, he was a terrible police officer, and he took a young lady's life, a pre-med student. That's why we are where we are today. But talking about how he became an officer, before Ms. Turner took the stand, we heard about an interview, pre-police interview, where he was being classified as a narcissist. And then you have Ms. Turner take the stand today, talking about him being a pervert when he's a teenager. Did that move the needle?
First, let me say this. He did something wrong with this case. Clearly, that's what the jury found, and that's why we're here. To say he was a terrible police officer, I don't know that. What I know is there were things that he could have done different on this particular day. Every police officer is one step away from making some tragic mistake. So to classify him as a terrible police officer, I'm not going to go there. What I'll say is he made a mistake today. I think on that day, he probably should have identified himself at the door based on the call that they had, because they didn't know whether someone in the house was in danger or not. And to creep around the house when you have the open door, I think the training that I have, and I think training around the nation would have been, if we think somebody's in danger in there, we're going to bang in the door and we're going to go in. This isn't like we're at a business and we think somebody's inside and we're going to set up on it and then call in for a canine. That's not what we're doing. There's somebody in there who could be in danger. We're going to go in. That's the mistake he made. And then going in that backyard, he put himself in a position where she came to that window. He was faced with a gun and he had to do what he had to do, but he was wrong because of how he set it up.
Well, according to testimony, just to push back, and of course you're the expert, you're the law enforcement expert and the trial attorney, but he didn't not only announce himself, but he's the only one that said that he saw a gun, because little Zion said that she didn't point the gun, and his partner, who coincidentally had her back turned to the whole incident, didn't see it. So, I mean, it's his word, I guess, that he saw the gun, right?
So my understanding was, and again, this is your show, so I don't know, but I think that he said, little Zion, in his initial moments after the incident took place, Zion said that his aunt pulled the gun out and pointed it toward the window. In his testimony on the stand, it changed, and I think they brought that out. So his position was he saw a gun, and his testimony was he was looking down the barrel. You know, you're a police officer, and there's split-second decisions that have to be made.
Now, he used a whole lot of words just to say cops don't give a fuck about you. Now, we know the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, already said that police have zero responsibility in protecting or serving or preventing a crime. But please tell me why you get a non-emergent welfare check call and you automatically think burglary. And you go around to the back of the house, and the testimony from this case said there was no weapon drawn. There was no laser pointed at him, no flashlight pointing at him. He had a flashlight pointed at her. And within mere seconds, after just saying, raise your hands, he shot her through a back window. He went around to the back of the house. His own partner said they did not follow protocol. So you can't tell me that he was a good cop. But that thin blue line is looking real thickety thick right now. We'll see what the sentence is later today.